All right, well, this is going to be something different. This is a game that I am not playing, actually. This is a 4-player game on France featuring 3 of our players from the previous 5-player Germany game that I recorded. Jbode, psteinx, or no, not jbode, but amitss1, daroj, and psteinx. Stein being the winner of that previous game. And then jbode has joined this one as well, replacing me and John Flag. Bode and Stein both in this game. Again, possibly the 2 best Power Grid players in the world here. So I definitely wanted to do this. This would be a good one to use as my first recorded commentary game that I'm not playing. I will still keep track of the plants and everything. 3 and 4 going for, pretty standard prices with the high-level players in the game. 5 and 8 going at their list price. Like, 5 and 8, people are never going to bid those plants higher than their list price on the opening turn. Anyway, we have 11, which is, on France, 11 is a beast, and will get good bidding, especially with 19 showing up in the market already. 19 is one of the biggest blocking plants in preventing good stuff from making it onto the market. 19 in the market gives more incentive to pay for the 11. 26 showing up, though, may give a little pause to that. Because there will be other plants bought after 11, which could potentially get 26 on the market. And Stein, as per usual, whenever Stein wins the 3, he loves to go for the triple Paris build. On the France map here, the main unique thing besides uranium starting out so cheap is the fact that Paris is represented by 3 cities on this map, and they all have a free connection with each other. So you can build the whole thing for just 30. Stein is a huge fan of building all 3 of those at once with when he gets to build first. So this game is no exception to his usual France style. And jbode takes the very reasonable build as well. Le Mans and Angers. This is good because this build gives you the most connections to these cheaper blue and purple cities. Although, amitss takes an interesting tack. Well, no, not amitss. Amitss goes for the safe yellow area, which is one of the more expensive parts of the map, but it's a very safe area that won't be highly contested. And it's not too hard to expand out of there in step 2. I mean, you actually do have a connection to Paris from Dijon. It's not cheap, but it exists. And it is quite useful if you can take multiple Paris cities at once in step 2. 44 goes under the deck. 28 comes in. 28 could be a thing on France. So Stein has to put the 10 up for bid. I almost wonder if the 10 isn't worth putting some bids on here, because the pickings are going to get slim after 10 and 11. But I was going to say, daroj was the one who took the interesting tack here, building into Bode's area. I mean, there is some sense to it, because you're threatening cheaper cities, but then the problem is this red area gets really expensive until you make it to the end. And actually, even the end's not too cheap. Just the Toulouse to Carcassonne. Carcassonne's the only cheap city in red. So 10 went to Bode. Bode, so I was going to say, I knew that 10 would get a little competition here. But Stein is very willing to pay max price, the maximum price that he can for the 11, while still powering 3 cities. So he just needs to buy the plant, a uranium, and 1 more oil. Ooh, 18 comes on. Ouch. This is a big, big deal. That's actually kind of a blow to Stein, because 18 is definitely going to be a better plant in the long run than 11. Powers the same number of cities, does not use any resources. It will get bid to a high price, though. As you're seeing here, it's going for, 27 right now. And daroj is thinking, 28, so we've reached $10 more. Oh, we might hit 30 on this. Okay, no, 29. 29 is where it stops for the 18 plant. And that makes a lot of sense, because this market is not good. And daroj not buying a plant means that the market next turn is going to be this same crap here. This is a motley collection of plants. All right, so there was 18 that was on there. We can already mark 11 off, because on France, 11 is always the first plant drawn after 10. That's one of the other, that's the one main rules change. is cheaper uranium, and 11 is guaranteed to be the first plant drawn from the deck. After that, the rest is randomized. Alright, so 22, 26, 28, 40. 26 obviously is a huge, huge deal. Because the thing is on France, with uranium being used in the early game, that tends to make the fossil fuels a little bit cheaper in the early going compared to other maps, too. And especially now with 18 being in play as well, 18 and 11, coal and oil are going to get quite cheap at this point. So, like, 16, this plant might get some bidding, actually. With, again, that terrible 19 coming in after with the expensive trash. 16, like, Bode and Daroj, I could see them fighting over 16. Amitss actually puts it up for bid, though. That's not a bad move on Amitss' part, because worst case scenario, Amitss still powers 2 cities for free this turn anyway, and then can start building on the next turn and, you know, eventually making use of the 16. Bode bows out of the 16 auction quite early, which kind of surprises me. On the other hand, it kind of doesn't, because coal is getting really cheap with these plants that have come, and now it's in Bode's favor to play the turn order game. With him having the lowest numbered top plant, Bode's going to hang out at the bottom and just fish for plant drops, I think is going to be his game plan here. Stay at 2 cities. If others build more than he... Well, no, Bode has to stay at 2 this turn to guarantee bottom in the turn order for the next turn. So Bode's not going to build this turn. He'll take advantage of the cheap coal. Daroj won the 16, which is not surprising. He's definitely the player who needed it the most. And yeah, Bode's not buying extra resources, which is a smart move on his part because he knows he's going to the bottom next turn, so he'll get cheaper coal then. No need to buy extra right now. Sorry about that. 36 goes under the deck. $25 was drawn. I missed that. That's obviously another very extremely important plant. I forgot to mark 16 off too. Yep. Bode's playing it extremely patient, which is good for him. Like, there's no reason for Bode to rush because of how cheap coal is. And now he knows that people are actually going to use coal above him, so he stocks extra now, buying the $1 and $2 coal. Because Daroj might use coal this turn, probably actually almost certainly will use coal this turn, because Daroj will build at least one more city, in which case it's actually worth firing the 8, as cheap as coal is, even just for one city. And Amitss could potentially buy coal on the hybrid 5 plant. So the longer the stall goes, I'd say the more this favors Amitss, actually, with the 18 plant. Stein's not doing bad either. 18 is definitely going to make more money than the 11 for sure, though. And the longer the market stalls, the more the advantage goes to the 18 in that scenario. 27 comes on. So this is going to be a tough spot because I feel like people are not going to want to put 22 up for bid to drop people 25 and 26. Now Bode builds to 3, which makes sense because he's still guaranteed to stay at the bottom of the turn order. And Tours is obviously the build for Bode. Oh, and Stein builds all the way up to 7, moving the market. Stein will build this building to 7. It gets the 7 plant out of the game, and then it'll trigger step 2, which also gets the 9 plant out of the game as the lowest number plant left. So Stein just cleared 2 plants off of the market with that build. He's pushing his money lead, his money advantage, with his cheap builds and his 11 plant and cheap oil on the 3, and he wants to take advantage of that money with a big plant next turn. That's what he's aiming for here. So let me see. 35 was drawn, 38 was drawn, 38 is going to go under the deck. And 29, so yep, 25 and 26 are both guaranteed to be bought this turn. Stein opts for the 26 first, which makes sense because there are still other plants lurking that could hurt coal more compared to oil. 16 being in the game is a decent blow to the 26, but 26 long term should still be a safer plant than 25. Hence why Stein put that one up for bid. I'd expect this to go for at least 40. That's my thinking here. Like 40 to 45 range. Although Stein drops out now. So we have an idea of Stein's price range here. But yeah, I'm thinking this should hit 40. Right? This should hit 40? Yep, it hits 40. And that's where Bode stops. Well, 25 is obviously going to be put up next for bid. This will also be a big fight. I'd expect this one to go for similar price. Stein puts up for 35. It's 35. It's going to go for more than that, though. Someone is going to look at the cheap coal and probably pay 40-ish for this plant, too. You would think Bode would be the player who needs a plant the most. But Bode was dropping out of the 26 auction earlier than some may have expected. He wins 25, though, which makes sense because coal is quite a bit cheaper than oil for Bode here as the first player to buy resources. Stein is not in a good spot. And then amitss definitely takes 28. 28 on France is pretty sweet, especially in step 2 where uranium comes back in at 2 per turn. So the 11 and the 28 can both run, and uranium will stay at the same price. So Stein is now a definite underdog in this game at this point. Although we'll see how much money Bode has. I have to imagine he should be able to get to 5 this turn, though. Bode should at least get to 5. Daroj is already at 5, so 26 is fine for Daroj. And now 12 comes in. Okay, 12, 32, 34, 35, 50. And yep, Bode builds to 5 and just opts to stop there. Going into Paris, which makes perfect sense. Paris is like the first place you want to go, if at all possible. Cheapest part of the map, right there. And no one else is that close to Paris. I mean, not super close to Paris anyway, so Bode could potentially get more on the next turn, too. Bode still needs to hang in the turn low in the turn order and look for a plant, though. And Daroj builds 1 because that keeps their spot in the turn order the same. They'll be second from the bottom, only above Bode. Daroj is interesting. Winning 26 and 16 means they get to keep oil cheap. And 29 stays on, so this is definitely getting bought too. Stein needs the 29, although he might pass on this. Amitss bids on 29, which is interesting. Normally having 2 4 plants is not ideal in a 3 or 4 player game, because that doesn't really help you get to 17 for the end game. If you have 1 4 plant, you can reach 17 with a 6 and a 7, which is very feasible to pull off, as long as you make it to step 3 in decent enough time before people can end the game. So having 1 4 plant is fine in 3 and 4 player. Having 2, though, is not so hot, because one of them is going to have to be replaced. And at this point of the game, you don't want to have to buy any more plants that you'll need to replace later, generally speaking. 29 does make a lot of money, though, so there is an advantage to it, but I expect a bid war on this for sure. The market could very, very easily stall out here after 29. I mean, we do still have 20, 21, 30, 31, and then a few plants they'll put 32 up on there. It's actually more likely than not that we'll have another 4, 5, or 6 capacity plant after this. Hence why I'm not surprised at Stein passing at this point. Bode's paying a surprising amount for 29. A little more than I expected, especially with Bode being bottom in the auction. Now 21 comes on, one of those plants that I mentioned before that would still be pretty good for Stein. So now this is a little trickier. Though 24 is decent too. Like, most plants left in the deck are at least as good as 21. I think Stein's... interesting. I thought Stein would pass. Give the 21 to amitss, and then Stein could go for the 20. And not 20, but, Stein could go for like 32 if that came, or, 31, anything along those lines. 20 should definitely get some decent bidding because it is an endgame plant. And there's the 14 to stall the market now after the 20. Which was rather unlikely. Most plants left in the deck were, either like 24, which would still have been okay at this point, because it makes good money with trash being cheap. 24 or, bigger plants. 30, 31, and then like higher numbered plants that would have moved 32 up onto the market to buy. So 14 coming there was a little bit unlucky. I have a feeling Bode is going to be able to take the rest of Paris this turn. Given... I mean, he did pay like high 30s for the 29, which is still not too much given how efficient that plan is. I think Bode can hit 7 this turn at least. That's my thought. I feel like Bode would not have been willing to bid for the 29 if he can't make a good amount of money from it right now, this turn. That's my thinking with Bode here. $39 will go under the deck on the next turn. Yep. We called it. Bode gets the rest of Paris and stops there. He makes it to 7. In Daroj's shoes, I might have run the 8 instead of the 16, actually, because that hurts other players and doesn't make oil more expensive for me with my 26. That's what I might have done in Daroj's spot, is just run the 8 instead of the 16, probably just for like 1 turn. But that would be a move you can make. And 37 comes. Alright. This is a nothing turn. None of these are going to get bought. They don't help anybody at this point. Of course. And there's 17 to stall the market again for another turn. All right. Sure. So yeah, now the scheme is just going to be about building to make as much money as you can or jockeying for turn order. Which one of those games will you play? I think Bode is just going to build to 9 cities and stop there. He wants to get full use out of his 25 and 29 as big money-making plants. Stein will want to play the turn order game. Although, I don't know, we'll see, because Daroj doesn't have much of a reason to build this turn. Daroj could take bottom. I think Stein would be willing to take, like, second from bottom, though. I expect Stein to build a 9, because 11 still makes good money at this point. Very good money. Because powering 7 cities to 9, you gain another $16 from that. And the uranium was just 4, so that's a $12 profit. That's huge at this point of the game. So yeah, definitely worth it for Stein to build to 9, run all of his plants, make the most money possible. And then he'll stop there. I think Stein will end up second from the bottom, which I think is a good spot for him. And Stein really needs to play the turn order game now, because he's hoping that the game gets to step 3 and he can get a 6 and a 7 and that 17 will win. He has to hope that another player like Bode Bode or amitss won't be able to get to 18 cities to end the game. Because Stein, I think with the way his plants are set up, Stein's not going to get to 18 this game. He's going to look for the fish for the 4, 6, 7 as his most realistic finish. Bode is kind of in a weird in-between spot. He spent a lot of money on the 29, which is a plant that he will need to replace to end the game. I have a feeling that could hurt him in the end. The problem was Bode needed some kind of second efficient plant that he could run alongside the 25 in order to make enough money for a chance at winning. I just wonder if 29 would be the best option for that. I will say that the market stall that's going on right now is giving more time for 29 to make money, which is a point in its favor. And as resources get more expensive here, the weird thing is, as coal and oil both get more expensive, that actually makes 29 more valuable relative to your 20 and 25 and 26. The more expensive the fossil fuels get, the bigger efficiency advantage 29 gains over other fossil fuel plants. So that's a good thing to watch for. 37 goes under, 33 comes in, but alas, that's 33 being drawn now is not going to get a good plant on the market. So this is going to be another pass turn. So Stein actually does get to bottom. I did not think Daroj would build this turn, but they actually opted to build to 10 and use all their plants. Which, I'm not sure how I feel about that. $16 is not a good second plant for 26 is the issue here. So in Daroj's shoes, I might have considered just going to the bottom and then trying to buy something like 22. Also, 15 came in, so another turn of market stall. Yay. This is actually really, really bad news for Stein. And honestly, even for daroj. Like, this game might just come down to amitss and Bode because of the market stalling so bad. Those two having the highest base capacity, that is just, they have both players, amitss and Bode, have 5+4 for their top two plants, and that's more than anyone else has. daroj has 5+3, Stein only 4+3. So, given how bad the market stall is, we could end up with step 3 only lasting like one turn here, and that would just absolutely kill Stein and daroj. Like, this game would come down to Bode and amitss. Although Stein's going to build a plant off the market. That's absolutely what he needs to do here. Stein would prefer to stay bottom, but with the market stalling as bad as it is, he had to build the 15 off the market by reaching 15 cities. That puts 24 on, but I don't think step 3 is going to come if my math is correct. There should be one more plant left in the game. There are 4, remember, in 4-player games, 4 plants are randomly removed from the deck, and my numbers here show 5 left. So either I missed a plant or we're not getting step 3 for one more turn. If we don't get step 3 for one more turn, I think Stein is dead. Stein getting to bottom is going to be a big advantage, I feel. Because what Bode could do, what Bode getting to bottom, because what Bode could do, I don't think Bode will have enough money to end the game, though. Because what they could have done is stay bottom and take a plant like 19 or some crap like that for higher capacity than anyone else, and then just end the game. And oh, there's 30. So I was right. I was correct. 30 was the last plant left, and this means that actually step 3 will come this turn. Problem is, it's not the step 3 auction. So Stein is forced to take the 24. So yeah, I'd say Stein is pretty well screwed. Because we know for a fact that 30 is coming up next. The step 3 card is going to be next. So we will get 30 and 32 as the next 2 plants coming. Because again, BSW has what I consider a bug or improper implementation of the rules, where normally once you draw the step 3 card in the auction, the remaining plants in the deck should be reshuffled. But BSW does not reshuffle them during this specific auction phase. So we know that so the plants will come out in the order that they went into the deck. So it'll be 44, then 40, then 36, and so on. So that's why I keep track of the order of these step 3 reshuffle plants, because that's the order in which these plants will come in the auction if step 3 card is drawn during the auction phase. So we know for a fact that 32 is going to come on the market next. And after that, it's going to be 33 and 34. Actually, no, it'll just be 33 because 3 players left in the auction. 1 player will win 30, 1 player will win 32, and then the last player after that will probably not buy a plant because 33 won't really help at this point. Stein offering his prediction on the value of the 30. Bode is thinking about it for 50. I think Bode knows this, that Bode's going to have to get a 6 plant this turn if he wants a chance at winning. And 30 is way, 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 way better than 32. It even is a lower number, so 30 will win the turn order tiebreaker over 32. Plus 30 has so much cheaper resources. Like the cheapest possible. The cheapest you can possibly get, especially since Bode is the first player to buy resources. He's getting like $1 and $2 trash here if he gets this plant. So 30 is worth a lot more than 32. And what you have to consider is Once 32 comes on, people are going to get a little more desperate for that plant because 32 will be the last chance to buy a 6 capacity plant here. Stein's prediction of $78 for this plant is becoming closer and closer to reality. I'm not surprised, though, because given how hard this game is stalled, people are going to have a lot of money going into this phase, for sure. And that means that realistically, the game will probably end on the next turn. So that's why you have to get your capacity now. 30 and 32 are going to be tremendously valuable plants. Stein's prediction, wow, there's 78, like Stein said. We could get past that, though. We might get past, there we go, we might hit 80 on this. But again, though, I'm not surprised. Because of how hard the market stalled earlier, players are sitting here with a lot of money in reserve, and they need capacity to spend it on. And turns out 82 was the magic number that Bode would not get past. 32 is interesting here because of the oil problem. Well, I guess it's not too much of a problem, but if amitss wins this plant, Bode will probably buy oil on the 29. So I predict 32 should still go in like the 50-60 range. Or no, actually a lot less than that. Okay. So like low mid 40s for the 32 plant. That feels a bit cheap to me. A little bit. I'd say it feels actually pretty darn cheap. If you think the game is going to end in 2 turns, 32 will definitely work out to being a better deal than the 30. Since it came in at just over half the price. And you only have to, use resources on it for 2 turns. I think Bode is now in the driver's seat to win this game. That's my thought here. I think Bode should just buy as much resources as he can, and because he'll need, well, except for the 29. Bode's going to replace the 29 next turn. We know that. So he doesn't need to stock extra on the 29, really. Just 32 and 25. Those are the 2 plants he's going to keep the rest of the way. But we're having the server restart, so unfortunately we're going to be missing like 15 minutes of the video here, so I'll still leave this on because I think in YouTube's video editor you should be able to just cut out those 15 minutes in their own native video editor. That should be easy to do there. I think that's a thing you can do anyway. So I'll just leave this stuff on with, all sound muted during the 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish this game for what should be the last 2 turns or so here. What's interesting is basically, if Bode has the money to end this in 2 turns, I think he's clearly going to win here. But if the game lasts this turn plus 2 more turns in step 3... Actually, no, wait. No, Stein's still not going to win then. The only way Stein could win would be if he managed to land 2 7-capacity plants to get him to 18. Because I feel like if nobody gets to 17 on the next turn here, the turn after this one, then 18 cities will be the winning number for the turn after that. And Stein is an extreme long shot to reach that number. Being the richest player wins you more often than anything else in Power Grid, but being the richest player does not always win. And you're seeing that in this game, I think. Stein's not completely dead, though, just I would say, a major underdog at this point. The Step 3 market is not very good, to be fair. Anywho, I think I'll mute everything right now and then take care of some other things. Need to upload my previous video. And yeah, I'll get back to you soon. Alright, and we're back. It looks like all the players are in the game here. At least it looked like the players were back, but we're not seeing any action yet. Okay, no. I guess players are still coming in. It says Stein just got back into the room now. So this cannot have been too long since the server got back up. And yes, for those who don't know, BSW has a server restart every night, and it's right around like 10:15 Pacific, something like that. And it takes around 15 minutes for the server to get back up. So yes, Stein and Bode have just come into the room. We might still be waiting on one or two of the other players here. So players are getting back in. It looks like everybody should be back in now. Daroj buying extra trash. That definitely, you know. Well, we knew Daroj is not going to end the game this turn after paying over 80 for a plant. But I mean, yeah, that just there's nothing there. Nobody's ending the game this turn for sure. The question is how many cities Bode will get to here. He had been sitting at 9 for a while, so he should definitely be able to make it to 15 here. Bode did not buy extra resources other than like 1 coal. So yeah. He's thinking about where he wants to go here. Does he want to go above other players in the turn order? Because what he's thinking here is He's debating whether to go above others and fire plants and make money. But I think the problem is, with fossil fuels getting so low at this point, I think Bode kind of has to stop here. Or not. He's building above maybe one other person. Okay, no. This is interesting. My thinking here is that Bode he won't run the 32 plant because oil is very much at risk right now. I think he kind of has to run 25 and 29 to make the most money here while still holding on to resources. Since coal and oil are pretty comparable at this point, I'm honestly not so sure about Bode's decision to build to 15 here. Because 32 is not going to make tons of extra money at this point. Like, let's look at the difference between 9 and 16. 9 cities is $98 you make for that. 16 is 138, so it's an extra 40, which sounds like a lot, but you also have to pay a lot for trash. Oil. You're probably paying like $20 plus for the oil to run the 32, and putting yourself at risk of a buyout. 39 being in the game was a good reason for Bode to build high, though, because we know that that's just an amazing plant. By far the best plant on the board right now. It's going to go for a pretty penny. Stein, I think, bidding on this is actually the correct move because, again, Stein kind of has to play for the 4, 6, 7. I mean, realistically, the game's going to end this turn, but Stein kind of has to... his only chance is to hope that somehow the game doesn't end this turn. And he knows that Bode really needs this plant. 40 is quite risky for Bode. What Bode could do here is this. If we don't get a better plant than 40 coming, if Bode doesn't win 39 here, he might actually pass on plants this turn. I could see Bode going for that, saving money, and then aiming for 18 on the next turn. That could be a possibility. Because we know that Daroj is not super rich here. Bode should definitely have the money edge on Daroj. But then again, Bode's money advantage means he could push this a little bit more still, because I imagine Bode's done the math in his head to figure out how much he would pay for this plant and still be able to build to 17 to end the game. So that's what's going on here. We're getting to the point where the decisions are getting tougher. You're going to have to really think about how hard do you want this plant versus what else is left in the market. The problem is, the remaining plants after this are not very good. 38 is pretty great. Hey, guess what? Guess what just came? 38. Guess what just showed up? This is going to be a fight. Stein needs this plant. Stein is going to drive this plant up like crazy. Like, 38 is easily the best plant left in this market right now. Because after this, it's just 36 and 50 is really good, and then it's just smaller plants, 37 and 35. So 50 is about the only plant left that would be really good for Bode here. Stein and amitss, the two players who probably have the most money in reserve at this point, obviously going to be the two fighting the most for this, of course. $36 to come, okay. Here's the problem. Bode can't really touch 36 because he risks players buying out coal on him. Although, actually, you know what? With daroj threatening 17 cities, they might not do that, because that would be king-making then. This is where the honor code of online Power Grid multiplayer comes into play. Because if there's multiple players who look like they could win the game, then the other players just should do their own bare minimum to get their, to get their cheapest plant cities resources, and not screw things up for the players who would have a chance to win. This puts Bode in a really tough spot. See, I had thought Bode would be in a great position to win, but I actually think that going up top in the turn order may be what screws Bode here. Otherwise, Bode could go for something like 36 at least. 40 would be a lot safer for him if he were lower in the turn order. See, my thought would be, like, in Bode's spot, last turn, I initially thought that he was not going to build at all. He was going to stay at 11 cities, just run the 25 and the 29 again, and then just use bottom in the turn order to just fish for the best possible plant and or get the cheapest resources on a less efficient plant if he has to. We know that Stein will need the 36. We know that for sure. Problem is, since we know that 46 is not in the game, we know that Stein won't be able to get any higher than 17 capacity. And there's a problem here. There is a problem. What Bode could do, actually, this is interesting. Here's an interesting option. Bode could go for the 36 to replace 25. That's a possibility. Because since there's no more coal plants left in the game... Yeah, looking at this, there's no more coal plants left in the game. Bode can buy 36... he can actually bid Stein up on it because he can use the 36 to replace 25, and he will safely be able to get the coal that he needs on the 36, even if other players buy their maximum coal. That will still leave exactly 2 left that Bode will need on the plant. If somebody else gets 36, the problem is they can all buy out coal, and Bode may not be able to get... Bode could potentially not get any coal on the 25. Then again, people may not go for the coal buyout because they'd be worried about handing the game to daroj. I mean, daroj paid a lot of money for 30 and 39. So they may not think daroj can end the game, and maybe they'll just try to lock out Bode from ending it if it comes to that. I feel like Stein is going to end up winning the 36. It's just a question of how much Bode pushes him on it, because this is actually a usable plant for Bode as well. Really, really tough spot for Bode. I know Bode tracks plants also, so he knows too that he only has a 1 in 3 chance of getting the 50, which is the one plant he'd really like to see here. 50 would be perfect for Bode right now, as it's a green plant, doesn't use resources. That would really help his cause here. But he's going to have to fight Stein a little bit in the 36. In case the game doesn't end this turn. Well, no. Actually, Stein's not a problem. Like, never mind. Like, there's no more 7 plants left after this, so I think no matter what, Stein's not going to win. Because next turn, somebody's getting to 18. And Bode gets his lucky 50. $50 came and $35 came. That leaves $37, which is worthless at this point as the last remaining plant. So, this is interesting because now there actually might be an incentive for people to buy out Bode's coal in this situation. It's a question of whether people believe Daroj can end the game. Because if they buy out Bode's coal, well, there's part of the coal buyout. If they believe that Daroj is not going to end the game, then it is in their favor to buy out coal. And Daroj is already giving away the fact that he can't end the game with his extra trash buy. So, yeah. We know now that 25 is going to get replaced for Bode next turn. Which is fine. I mean, well, okay. I don't know how fine it is, really. This is actually interesting because 40 is the last remaining 6 capacity plant in the game. So this is an interesting spot here. Here's the deal. Amitss might be in the best spot, honestly, because all they need next turn is to get a 5 plant, and they can hit 17. Daroj won't need to buy another plant at all next turn if they won't be able to get to 18. And I think they won't, because next turn, everybody's going to fight over the 40. Because the 40 is the last remaining plant in the game that can power 6 cities. So Stein absolutely has to win the 40 to have any chance at all. Because the 40 plant is the one and only plant that can get Stein up to 17 cities. And, like, everybody will have the money to hit 17. Hell, everybody will have the money to hit 18. It's just a matter of who wins the plant for it. Amitss can get to 18 with the 40, but I think overall, with his money advantage, Stein is going to win the 40. It's just a question of how high it goes. And whether that plays to the favor of Daroj and Bode, especially Bode, because Bode paid a lot less for his plans compared to the other players. I feel like if people don't buy out coal again, Bode could end up winning this. Still. Amitss is actually in a good position. Like, Amitss is just going to put up the 40 for bid. You should just put up the 40 for bid regardless, because that's the plant. Like, everybody's going to fight over that plant. 40 is the crown jewel remaining in this game. Never mind. Actually, I can see where this would happen, because for Amitss, the issue is that he would get locked out of oil if he were to buy... Like, if he were to put the 40 up and try to go for 18, he could get locked up. He could get oil bought out on him. That's the problem here. Wait. I was going to say, Daroj should not click on the 34. 34 is nothing for Daroj right now. Okay, so Amitss gets the cheap, efficient plant to reach 17 here. And here comes the big one. We know this is going to happen. This is the plant. Again, Stein absolutely must win this plant to have any chance in this game. But if he gets it at a good price, I think he wins. It's a question of how high, though. And I feel like this plant should be bid up really high. The nice thing about this is, if Daroj does not buy extra oil... Well, no, wait. What Stein could do... We get into some really interesting politics here. If Bode wins the 40, Stein could buy the 35 and buy out oil on Bode. That is a possibility. But, like, Stein is in a desperate situation, and Bode knows this. Bode is going to drive up the price in the 40 like crazy. Because Stein knows that he's not winning this game if he does not get this one plant, and only this one plant. He loses. I do think that Bode will finish ahead of daroj. But amitss, though. Amitss is interesting here. An interesting candidate in this game. I still have to feel like with everyone at 17, like Stein wins, though. But everybody being at 17 means there's not really an incentive for Stein to buy out coal. To buy extra resources in general. Stein acting like he's going to buy out Bode's coal. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I feel like amitss is still a potential candidate to win, and I think Stein has to think about that and weigh that enough to not buy extra coal in this situation. I mean, Stein is definitely going to buy minimum 1 coal, because that last coal is no more expensive than the oil. I mean for the 21, because 21's a hybrid plant, can use coal or oil. Stein will buy 1 coal for the 21 at least, and I suspect he might buy coal for his second one as well, because Bode, I think he still sees Bode as his main competitor to win this game. Especially since Bode has gotten, Bode's gotten 2 turns. He'll get 2 turns out of the 50 plant, which is a lot of money. Stein's been keeping track of Bode's money this entire game. That's really impressive. Like, I've never been able to reach the level where I can actually remember other players' money. Yeah. What Stein's weighing here is... Does Stein think he can win if he buys out Bode's coal? Does he need to buy out Bode's coal? Is he richer than Bode? This is what Stein is thinking about right now. Is it worth buying all the coal left on the board so Bode can't run the 25 to end the game? And I think Stein makes the correct answer here. And buys the correct resources. 1 coal, 1 oil. Stein just needs his own cheapest resources. Buying an extra coal after the $7 one does nothing to attack the other players. It's just more expensive for Stein himself. So Stein was correct to buy oil there, and I think he made the correct move not buying out coal on Bode. There's too many other players to worry about in this game for him to go for the resource buy just to target 1 player, because that's a lot of extra money for Stein to pay. Okay, so Stein overestimated Bode's money by 100 plus. Well, we know Bode beat Daroj, but that was pretty obvious. Stein might end up winning this, actually. Oh, shoot. Stein only got 69 left. Nice. I thought Stein might have been richer than Bode, but he did pay a lot for the 40. And Stein had to use the 36 for 2 turns. Not a whole lot of money making there compared to plants like 50. And amitss ended up pulling out the win by just barely over Bode. Wow. So yeah, Stein was definitely right not to buy out resources there because it wouldn't have mattered anyway, and also, even if it did matter, it would have been king-making if Stein had bought out resources and still not won. I really thought Stein was richer than he was. I guess Stein did have to buy more of like the 3 and 4 power plants than other players, and he lost out money on that from having to buy more plants, and then also from, having to buy the 36 instead of a more efficient plant on the first turn of step 3. That's what cost Stein money. But yeah, everyone had a good amount of money left at the end of this game compared to usual endgame. Just a really interesting finish and pretty close all around for a 4-player. Bode bidding up Stein in the 40 was really key. Like, Bode had to do it because Bode could actually build to 18 if he won the 40. Because if Bode got the 40, then other players would not have been able to buy out oil on him. So 40 was actually really good for Bode. So he did the right thing in bidding it up until he couldn't get to 18 with it anymore. And that ended up being what cost Stein a lot of money. And that thus was what set Stein behind Bode. Which thus obviously was big to Bode's chances of winning. Bode just ended up barely losing to amitss. Yep. So yeah, this was a really neat game. I'm glad I got to record a game I wasn't playing for once, and hopefully you enjoyed the commentary, and good night.